So welcome
How?
him.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come to your class. Bar Sensei, Professor Weakley, thank you so much for the invitation. I spoke here last summer, and I recognize several of you. And then I was here 2 years ago as well. I remember Stephanie was here 2 years ago, and others were here even 2 years ago as well. So I want to find out how many of you were in my lecture that we would have had last summer in 2025. Hold up your hand if you were here last summer, just so I can see. 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Okay, that's what I thought. So not everyone. For you, some of the things I have said before, I will be saying again. This lecture, I do not think I had the opportunity to speak on, and so this may be newer for you this time. But then next week when I speak on cultural leadership, CQ, cultural intelligence, and global leadership, there will be some repetition for you. But my perspective of learning is repetition brings learning. Helps you to learn more. I also want to ask where you are from. I know this young man is from Russia, he said. How many are maybe from Burma, Burmese? Okay, yes, several of you from Burma. Okay, fantastic. How many are from Japan? Okay, 5 or 6 from Japan. Oh, okay. Other Vietnam. We have at least one. Anybody else from Vietnam beside? Okay, also from Vietnam. 2 from Vietnam. Okay. Other places. Other country. Yes. Hi.
Mongolia.
Mongolia. Anybody else from Mongolia? Mongolia. Well, nice to meet you. You? Okay, you're both from Mongolia. Okay, wonderful. Where are you from? Philippines. Ah, what city in the Philippines? Manila. I have been to Manila. I spent a summer in Baguio, lecturing in Baguio at University of Philippines and Baguio University there in 1983. Many, many years ago, I was at that university. Other countries. Yes?
Nepal.
Nepal? Okay, great. How many from Nepal? This row. Okay, oh good. All right, so you stay together so I can make sure I see you. Other countries. Anybody other? So Nepal, Vietnam, Philippines, Mongolia, Burma, Japan. Any place else? Well, this is wonderful, and I'm from the U.S., and so we have 6 different countries represented here in this class. And I'm convinced that this will be very, especially as I talk about global leadership and about different cultures, the next time this will help you to understand even more the culture that you're from, but also the culture that your friend may be from as well. As Obari Sensei mentioned to you, my daughter lives in Japan. Her name is Hannah Grace. She is an actress for NHK. She sings, and she is a drama actress, and she's a voice actress. She sung Fate Grand Order, and then Attack on Titan. Anybody know of Attack on Titan video game? Or the show, the anime? She sung in that. In Japan, she also played a character in the movie, the TV show called Hanako to An, and that was a Azadora drama, and so she played Scott Sensei, and that was about 10 years ago when she did that. Her and her husband live here in Tokyo, and so when we come to Japan, we live with her in Otaku, in that area close to Tokyo Tech, and I get a chance to visit and engage and to participate in your class. I'll be at Tokyo Tech next week as well, at Waseda, at Rikyo, and also at Kanda University, International University. I will have the opportunity to lecture. So today's lecture is called basically Insights on Personal Leadership. Before you and I are able to lead in a global context or with many people, we have to learn to lead ourselves. So we're going to talk about some leadership principles. This is going to be in 2 parts. We'll have the first one until about 10:20, and then we'll have the second half starting a little bit after that. But as we discuss those things, I'm going to want you to think. I'm going to want you to process. I'm going to want you to analyze your own leadership to make sure that how are you doing as you lead yourself. We're going to have talk about the impact of leadership. We will discuss definitions on leadership. We will talk about the 3 relationships that every leader has and needs to have. And then we're going to talk about the structure of leadership, talking about purpose and values, goals, and a plan. And so we will take this, we will cover most of this today. If we do not complete it, I will work on it some more next week as well. Will you, by chance, will the class be joining together next week? This week? Okay. Will they be together in 3 weeks when the American students get here? Oh, good. Okay, that makes sense. First of all, the impact of leadership. I have a question on the board. It says, in what categories of life do you find people who give leadership? I'll give an example. In the military, people have leadership. You have a general, or you have a captain, or you may have a sergeant or a lieutenant. That's one category of leadership. What are some other areas in the world or categories of leadership? Yes. In sports, yes. How many of you, did anyone here play sports? Soccer or baseball or okay. If you are on a sports team, you have a coach. He or she is the leader. Then you often have a captain of the team, and they're the leader of the team as well. So sports, that's an excellent example of a different category. Another category of leadership. Sports, military. Where are you now? University. Yes, so in education, there is leadership. You have a professor or a sensei. You have a president. You have the chairman of the board. You have other teachers. And you have students. And that's all levels of leadership that take place that influence your life. Another category of leadership.
Politics.
Politics, yes. Politics is a very fascinating aspect of leadership. Depending on your country, you may have a president or a prime minister. And if you're in the United Kingdom, there's a king as well and a queen. But in politics, there's presidents and prime ministers and senators and House of Representatives. I'm from Kentucky. Anybody eat Kentucky Fried Chicken? KFC? Okay, that is where I am from. Kentucky, Colonel Sanders. His wife had a restaurant in my town many, many years ago. And so in our state of Kentucky, we actually had elections yesterday. And we were electing some new senators and some new congressmen in our Kentucky. So you have military, you have education, sports, politics. What else areas of leadership? Yes?
Doctors.
Excuse me?
Doctors.
Doctor, yes. Medically? Yeah, in the medical profession, you may have the chief of staff, or you have the president of the hospital, and then you have interns who report to the next doctor. My daughter-in-law is a doctor in Kentucky, and she is very prestigious and has studied in charge of COVID and learning the aspects of COVID, especially for children. Anything else? A number category at least. Yes. Family, yes, the family. Your family, you have a father, maybe a mother. Hopefully you have had both a father and mother. You may have an older brother or an older sister. Anyone have an older brother? Okay. Anyone have an older sister? Okay. I am the youngest of 3. So my oldest sister was 9 years older than me. Then I have a sister that's 3 years older, and I'm the baby of the family. I am the youngest. Speaking of my family, let me show you a picture of people that have impacted my life, and then I'm going to ask you the same question. There's 3 pictures up here. These are 3 men or 3 families that had great influence in my life. This first one here, this is my family, and this is me when I'm just about 6 or 7 years old. And my father was the leader of our family. That's my mother and my sister, my 2 sisters there. I learned many things about father. One of the things I learned was the significance of working hard, doing your best. When you say that you're going to do something, that you do it with all of your heart. And that's what I learned from my father. He was a very hard worker. And when he was younger, and when I was younger, then as he got older, he became an alcoholic, and it was very difficult at that time. The man here his name was Howard Matthews. And actually, his brother lived in the Philippines, in Manila, actually. And when I went to the Philippines, I tried to find his brother who lived there in the Philippines. I learned from Howard Matthews. Howard Matthews was a spiritual teacher. He was a minister. And I learned about the aspects of my life, about my heart, and about a bigger picture of life. And that life, we have been created in the image of God, and I learned about the spiritual dimension of my life. Now, from my father, I learned how to work with my hands and be a hard worker. From Brother Matthews, I learned about my heart. This man here is a federal judge. His name is Judge James Fleming Gordon, very successful man in Kentucky. He knew Colonel Sanders of KFC. He knew the President of the United States. He knew the governor of our country. He was a judge. I worked for him on his farm. I drove his tractor. I took care of his cattle. I took care of all of his, he had 300 acres. I took care of all of his land all the way through high school. And what I wanted to do when I graduated high school, my ambition was to be a professional tractor driver. I just wanted to work on the farm. But Judge Gordon said, no. He said, you're going to go to college. See, none of my family had ever gone to college. None of them had gone to the university. They were good workers and hard workers, but no one had actually gone to the university and studied in the university. And this man said, you are going to go to the university and you are going to study. See, my father taught me how to work with my hands and be a hard worker. This man taught me about my heart and about my relationship with God. He taught me about my mind. Even though I worked on the farm with him, he said, you need to develop your mind. So I want to ask you a question. Again, those are three people that have impacted my life. Who has impacted your life? Who is an individual that has influenced your life? Okay, is it on that list? I think it is. Okay. You want to explain on the list where that is? And so I want you to think for just 10 or 15 seconds. I mentioned three of mine. Who for you has impacted your life? Think about it. Leadership is influence, the ability of one person to influence others. One can lead others only to the extent that he or she can influence them. So a person has to have the ability to influence. Thrall said, leadership occurs anytime one attempts to influence you. Sometimes our leaders are our friends, right? And did anybody say that your friend is your leader? So we have to be careful, because sometimes our friends influence us to do good things. Other times our friends influence us to do negative things. But it's basically the aspect of influence. Northouse said, leadership is a process whereby an individuals influence a group of people to go toward a common goal. My definition of leadership, when I did my doctoral work in leadership many years ago, is accepting a calling upon your life as you live a life of personal character, influencing others toward a worthy goal. And that's important. It's toward a goal. Each of us are always moving someone from point A to point B. from here to there. And we influence those people actually through relationships. Mark Twain made a statement that the two most important days in your life, and he was an influential leader in America, the two most important days in your life are the days you are born and the day you find out why. And I want you to look at your finger. Hold your finger up. I want you to look at it. Everybody hold your finger up. Now look. Now, what is different about your finger and the person beside you? You are unique. Maybe yours is longer. But your fingerprint is special. There are 8.3 billion people on this earth. 8.3 billion people. Nobody else has your fingerprint. You are special. You are unique. And because you are special and you are unique, it actually tells, we are told, that we have been created in the image of God. And you are so special. And the most important thing to understand is you need to find out why. The first most important day, according to Mark Twain, is the day you were born. The second most important day is to find out why. And that relates to your purpose in your life. And we'll be discussing that in a few minutes as well. See, effective leaders influence others through significant relationships. And there are 3 relationships that every leader has to manage. 3 relationships that each person needs to think through. How am I leading, or how is this taking place? It's called a leader in others, a leader in self, and then a leader and their mentor. See, a leader and their mentor helps you to understand why you do what you do. One of my mentors in life is Obari Sensei. We met about 10 years ago. And he has helped me greatly in Japan to understand how to communicate more effectively, to understand the culture, to understand how to relate while I'm living here in Japan. Those pictures that I showed a couple of minutes ago were 2 men that were my mentor, Howard Matthews and Judge Gordon. We will discuss mentors in a few minutes. The second relationship is a leader in yourself. And that is your character, or who are you? See, your leader influences your life, but then in your life, you have to decide what kind of person you want to be. It's like you said that your mother said to you to be a man and to be strong. That relates to your character and who you are. Or your father may say to do your best and to work hard. It relates to our character. And the third relationship is a leader in others. And that is what you do. See, we think of leadership as me saying to you, you follow me. And then I walk and you follow with me. But a leader has to also first lead themselves. And they need to have someone that is leading their life as well. 3 relationships: self, others, and their mentor. Okay? Now I want you to think about your own life. And on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you doing leading yourself? Are you doing well? Like, are you disciplined? Do you work hard? Or if you do well, you give yourself a 5. If you're lazy and you have to be drugged to the meeting and you fall asleep in class, then that would be a 1. And so you have to help each other to stay. And your friends can help you to do that. And in our life, these circles represent kind of the head, our heart, and our hands. It's what you will do with your hands, who you are, your character, and why you do that. It's the influence upon your life. There's a Japanese diagram that you may have seen before that I believe helps to illustrate this. It's ikigai, I think is the word that is used, ikigai. And instead of 3 diagrams, this has 4 circles. There and there. The bottom one is what we think about colleges for, is getting a job that we can be paid. The one on your right, on your left, is what are you good at? The one on your right is what does the world need? And at the very top is what do you love to do? A few minutes ago, I talked to you about my daughter, Hannah. When Hannah was your age, she went to college. And she said, Otto-san, I want to become an actress. I want to be, didn't want to be a star, but she said, I want to tell stories. I want to act out stories, and I want to sing, and I want to be able to help people understand their life. And so I said, that is what she loved, and that was her passion. She was very, very good at that, even in high school and in college. She came to Japan, and within the first year she was here, she got a job on a TV show playing Scott Sensei. So she loved it. She was good at it. She was able to be paid, and now NHK pays her to do that. And she believes the world needs good stories. And she tells the stories. She told the story about COVID, and that was on the NHK. People heard it all over the world about how Japan was leading even with the security helps and things of that nature. So she tells the story. So for each of you, you need to think through, what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what you can be paid for. And when you get right there in the center, when they all come together, that helps you to understand your purpose. Helps you to understand your meaning. It helps you to understand your aspects of your life. Ikigai means the reason for being. The Japanese phrase that is there. So 3 relationships. And what I want to do in those 3 relationships, explain once again. The mentor is a person that influences you. Then you have to lead yourself. And then you lead others to the objective. So most people think that leadership is only this. But I want you to understand that leadership is also who influences your life, and then can you lead yourself, and can you lead yourself effectively? So the question is, what does a leader do? I want you to think, just a second, what do you hope your leader or your mentor does in your life? And then I will explain. Think a second. I'll be right back. Ask you a question. How many of you have a phone? Everybody has a phone. Well, a number of years ago, this was during COVID, so 5 or 6 years ago, we came to Japan in 2019 and also in 2020, and we left Japan the day before COVID hit in Japan. At Yokohama, there was a big boat that people sailed in on, and that had COVID. And so we left 2 days before that boat arrived here. When I got back to America, my phone died. It completely went dead. I had many, many pictures. I had many, many stories. I had many, many notes on my phone. So I took it to a phone repairman in Kentucky, and I said, "Can you fix my phone?" And he said, no, your phone is dead. Throw it away, and here's a new phone. I said, no. I said, my phone has many, many pictures from Japan. I want my phone. And he said, your phone is dead. So I took it to another place. And I said, my phone does not work. Can you fix it? He said, yes, I can fix it, but I have to erase all the stuff on your phone. And I said, no. He said, then your phone will be like brand new. I said, but I want the pictures on the phone. I want to be able to see what's on my phone. So I left that store. And then I called a friend of mine and I said, where would you take your phone to be fixed if something was broken? And he said, I would take it to this store and I would talk to John. And so I went to a certain store. I found John and I gave him my phone and I said, my phone is dead. Can you bring it back to life? And he looked at it. He said, yes, I can fix it. I said, are you going to erase it? He said, no. When you come back tomorrow, you give me $100 or 10,000 yen. Come back tomorrow and your phone will be like it used to be. And so I went back the next day and he handed me my phone and I turned it on and all the pictures were there. See, what he did was he took my dead phone and he gave it life. That's what leaders do. Leaders take things that are dead, that are not working, or people that are struggling, and they give them life. So let me explain what life means. L-I-F-E. L stands that a leader leads by example. Your mother said, be a man, work hard. What she's saying to you is be a leader and lead by example. Let other people see how you're doing. We, all of us, want a leader that we can look up to and say, yes, I want to be like her, or I want to be like him. And they lead by example. That's what L stands for. Number 2 is they inspire toward a vision or purpose. They take you from point A and they take you to point B. And they say, you can do this. They inspire you. They help with your purpose. Judge Gordon, the man, said to me, Thomas, you need to go to college. You need to get an education. And I said, I don't need an education. He said, yes, you need to get an education. He helped to give me a purpose in life. And I went to university. Then I went to graduate school. Then I got my doctoral degree. And now I even teach in Japan. That man died many years ago. This morning I texted his son, who's almost 80 years old, and I said, I am teaching in Japan today, in Tokyo. And he said, Judge Gordon would be happy because of education. So first, a leader leads by example. Second, they inspire toward a vision. They take you in a direction. Third, they take you from fear to faith, or trust and courage. When my phone broke, I was afraid of losing everything. And that leader gave me my phone back. He took away my fear. When we had COVID 4 or 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, our whole world was afraid. And doctors gave us vaccinations. Doctors told us how to function. They took away our fear. And they say, you can make it. You will be okay. And now, very few people get COVID like they used to do. We went from fear, and then we went from faith. See, that's one of the most important things a leader does. They help us overcome fears. Some people, some university students are afraid of failure. They are afraid of disappointing their parents. They're afraid of the future. They're afraid of not doing well on a test. And the most important leaders of all time talks about fear. And he says that perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment. But you have been loved perfectly. And that leader was a person named Jesus Christ. And talked about how we have been loved and how he has loved us perfectly. So a leader first leads by example, inspires toward a vision, takes us from fear to faith, and then lastly, they encourage your heart. They say, you can do it, don't give up. Go, you'll be okay. And they help you to go from point A to point B. They say, you're going to make it. You're going to be okay. You will be strong. And Stephanie, you will graduate. And they basically help us to go to the next purpose, and they encourage our heart. Well, I have a question for you. Which letter of life is most important to you? Lead by example, inspire toward a vision, take you from fear to faith, or to encourage your heart. Talk to the person beside you. I'll go back to that slide and think through which of the letters is most important to you. And then we'll do this for just a second. So talk to your neighbor and you tell them, is it lead, inspire, from fear to faith, or to encourage your heart? You discuss that.
We should discuss.
And then after this, then they can be, is that going to be about 10, 20?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
You going to give an answer or what?
Yes, I'll get their answers and then, is that okay?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
LIFE. Which one is important? LIFE.
Okay, are you telling each other? Are you discussing? Okay. Okay, let me ask you, how many of you said L, that lead by example is most important? Anybody said L? Anyone? Okay. How about to inspire toward a vision? How many said this is most important? Inspire toward a vision. Anyone? Almost, maybe not quite. Oh, yes, no, okay, all right, okay, good. A couple of you, okay. How many of you said from fear to faith, overcome your fear? Several of your hands went up, yes. See, that's important. Some people say that leaders do not become afraid, but that is not true. Leaders have courage and overcome their fears. Every leader has fear. Everybody is fearful at times. But a good leader is a person who says, I am afraid, but I will keep going. I have an 8-year-old grandson named David in America. And his name is David, and I saw him the day I left Japan, or the day before I left Japan. And as he got in the car, I said, David, be strong and courageous. Because sometimes he can be afraid. And I said, David, you can be strong and courageous. You can overcome your fear. Okay. And the last one here is encourage your heart. How many said encourage your heart? Okay, another about it. So several of you said encourage your heart. Several of you said from fear to faith, and then some of those other ones as well. You need to find a leader in your life, and you need to be a leader that gives people life. That says, you can do it. Or they tell you, do not be afraid. you can overcome your fear. Or they say, follow my lead. I'm going, you come with me. And they say, I will encourage your heart in life. We will stop here and we'll take a break. It is now 10:22. So it's not your brother or sister. It is not someone in your class. The hardest person to lead is yourself. Because if you do not lead yourself, then no one is going to follow. And so I've got another word here, D-R-I-V-E, or drive. The word drive means passion and willingness to work hard and making a decision to say, yes, I'm going to keep persevering. I'm not going to stop. Okay? So I'm going to give you some words. Hopefully that will help you think about that. And its first one is to have dynamic determination. Having dynamic determination. What that means is if this is my objective and I'm going in this direction and something stops me, I will stop. Or will you say, no, I will go around? How many of you have used GPS on Google Maps and gives you directions when you're going from point A to point B if you're in a car? If you're driving in your car and your car goes and there is a wreck on the road, what does it tell you to do? Turn left and go another way. It does not say go home. It says go a different direction. And that's what GPS does. And that's what when you lead yourself, you have to have dynamic or thinking about, I will not stop. Maybe you flunk a test or you make poor grades on a test. Do you stop? I am a terrible student. I will never do well. Or do you work and keep on going? My little grandboy here, John or John Thomas is his name. When I was here 1 year ago, he was learning to walk. And he would walk, then he'd fall over. And then he would cry and he would never walk again. He just laid there. No! I picked him up and I said, walk. He said, okay. And then he would trip and fall. And then he would get up and he would walk again. That's what you and I have to do in hard issues of life. We have to have determination to not stop and to keep working hard. Number 2, you need relational connectedness, or you need to have relationships. If I was to ask you who your best friend is, do you have a friend? Many of us have friends on this. Some even have chat bots that they talk to, but they're not people. You need to be relationally connected to a person that has skin, that has a heart. Because when you have difficult times, that's when that friend will help you in life, to have a relational connectedness. This morning, I texted several friends in the United States because I woke up at 3 a.m. because of jet lag. But 3 a.m. here is 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday in America. And so all my friends were awake. So I texted my friends, how are you doing? It's 3 a.m. in Tokyo. And I had my friends texted me back because I try to be relationally connected. So you need to have friends that will help you in issues of life. You need to have internal inspiration. Internal. See, Obari Sensei or your professor or I can say, you can do it, don't stop. well, you will be okay, but that is external motivation. That is someone on the outside trying to influence you. When no one is encouraging you, do you have it internally? Do you have that inspiration in your own life that you can say, when my friends do not text me, I can still work hard. I can still be effective. Number 4 is you need to have your values solidified. Let me explain. Values are things that are right and things that are wrong. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I was at a store and my watch band broke. Not my watch band, but it went dead. It would not work. And so I took it to the store and I said, my watch will not work. Can you put a new battery in it? And the person said, yes. And so my watch has itty bitty, very, very small screws. I mean, little, very small screws. So they got their screwdriver and they took the screws off the back. Then they took the casing off and they put a battery on it. And then they started putting the screws back on my watch. When they did that, they dropped a screw. And that screw was very, very small. It was silver gray and the carpet was silver and gray. So it fell on the ground and all of a sudden the lady got on the ground and was looking around trying to find the screw. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm trying to find the screw. I said, oh. So I got on the ground and I started trying to find the screw. And I said to her, if you do not find the screw, what do we do? And she said, you get a new watch. She said, if we cannot fix it, I will have to give you a brand new watch. I thought, my watch was very old. And I was having a new watch. As soon as she said that, I was still on the ground. I touched the screw. And so I stood up. And then I had to decide, am I going to tell her that I have the screw, or am I going to stick it in my pocket and get a new watch? Guess what I did? I said, I've got the screw. And she said, oh, good. And we stuck the screw on the watch and I got the watch. Now, that story was a test of my values. Do I believe in honesty? Do I believe in telling the truth? I do. I believe being honest. I believe telling the truth is very, very important. And so, if I really believe it, I have to tell her I have the screw. If I want a new watch, I just throw the screw away and get a new watch. That's what I mean about your values of love, truth, honesty, friendship, education, understanding, compassion. Those are values that people have. And as a leader, if you do not know what your values are, then what will happen is when you get tested, will you cheat? For instance, in your class, you are told to write a paper on leadership because of this lecture. You will be tempted to go to ChatGPT and say, give me a summary of lecture on leadership, and then hand it in, and it not be your paper. So if you're believing in honesty, you're thinking, I will write the paper. Now you may allow AI to help you with words and help you understand the language, but you will not allow AI to do your work for you. You have to do the work, and that is a value in life. AI will give you education, but it does not give you wisdom. Wisdom comes from your professors. They will give you wisdom. And the last one is being emotionally healthy. That means that when things are hard, do you just sit there and don't move? Or do you keep going? Do you have the ability to go through hard times? One of you said that your mother or father, or maybe your sister, like you said, your sister helped you to go through hard times, I believe. And so you have people that will help you to have emotional healthiness. And that means that's what a leader does. Those are all things about a leader and self. Do those make sense? Questions you want to ask me about those? Did I clarify that enough? Did I speak slow enough? Okay, good. Understand? Maybe different words. The next thing is a leader and others. A leader and others serve. One lecture I may be giving here by the end of the summer, or the end of the time that I am here, is called servant leadership. Do leaders make you serve them, or do you serve the people that you're trying to lead? A good leader is always a person who serves other people. He or she thinks about their life and think, how can I help them be a better person? One of you said that your teacher, was it your, yeah, that you learned that your teacher was the person who helped you. In middle school, I think you said, often teachers are there to serve. They're to teach. They're to give wisdom. They're to help you go through the issues of life. So there's 5 things there as well. In a leader is, first of all, that you have to have a submission to the objective. What that means is as you lead or as you are going through life, there has to be a purpose and an objective that is there. And as you lead others and they're coming behind you, you're going toward a purpose. And so each leader has to think, what is my purpose and how do I get there? The E stands to examine your people. When I started the lecture today, the first question I asked was, where are you from? And that helps me to know more about you. If you're from Vietnam or from the Philippines or from Mongolia or Japan or Myanmar or wherever it may be, or Russia, then I try to connect. And so a leader thinks about the people that are following him or her, and he says, what are they like? What do they enjoy doing with their time? You know, what do the men from Nepal like to do? And if you're going to be leading with people from Nepal, you ask what their abilities are. Number 3 is you release responsibility. What that means is, if you're always doing the job, then you're doing things that other people can do, and you have to give responsibility. When we walked into the class, Obari Sensei and I, a few minutes ago before the class began, there were no chairs. And Obari Sensei and I were both tempted to go and put all the chairs up. But there were some of you here, and we gave you the responsibility, or you were asked to put the chairs up. And when a person takes responsibility for other things, it gives them a sense of ownership. They think, yes, I am part of this. And so you give them the opportunities. One said that you were interviewed on TV about Japan and about living in Tokyo, which is wonderful. That gave you the responsibility to talk and to talk about your experience in the country. And any time you have a person that gives you more responsibility, it helps them to learn, it helps them to grow, and to teach. Then you have to value their insights. You ask, what do you think about this? What do you think about this leader, or about this concern, or about this topic? And lastly, you have to empower your people. Meaning, you say, here's more money, or here's more time, and you have the opportunity to take responsibility in life. But the most important thing about that is the word serve, S-E-R-V-E, to be a servant, and a servant of other people that are there. Does that make sense? Questions about serve? Well, Barney Sensor, is anybody you'd like to clarify? Any questions? Does it make sense? Okay. Well, this next part is a diagram that I want you to think about. And then this will give you even some things you can think of for the class next week. When you look at your life, the first thing you have to think about is your purpose. Do I have a purpose? I will discuss that more probably in a couple of weeks when we talk about global leadership. Second is your values, then your goals, and then your plan. So let's look at each of those just real briefly, and then we'll look at some ways that we can cover that. First of all, your purpose. Every leader has a purpose. If you're a leader in basketball, if you're a leader in sports, you want to win the championship, or you want to win the game. If you're a leader in politics, you want to win the election. If you're a leader in education, as a student, you want to graduate, you want to finish. And you have to have a purpose. You have to think through, why am I here? Why am I studying? Why am I at Globiz? Why am I all the way from Vietnam to Japan, or Mongolia to Japan? Why am I here? What is my purpose in life? And there are two types of purposes. There's a primary purpose, and then there's multiple secondary purposes. Meaning primary, the question is, why do I get up in the morning? It's your big purpose. And your second question is, our secondary purposes. Why am I a student? Or why am I taking this certain class? Or why am I wanting to go to this certain objective in life? And so the first thing is, we have to understand our primary purpose. In America, when I teach my students, the very first question I ask my students is this. They have to fill out a piece of paper, and they have to answer this question. My purpose in life is, and they have to write it out. My purpose is, and most of my students have never answered that question. Most of the students I talk with have never thought, what is my purpose in life? I want to read you one from my student. It's over here in my file. Uh, 16 years ago, I had a student wrote this, and it said, my purpose in life is, and he said this, there is no real purpose for me. Like all animals, I just live and then pass my knowledge on to somebody else. Then he says, why are we here, you may ask? My answer could be just because. People will figure out their purpose on their own time, but as for me, I am here just because. Then he later says, I live my life without knowing my purpose. I may never know my purpose. Until then, I will just be confused. And he turned this in, and then I graded it. And he got full credit, but I asked him some questions. One question I said, are you just an animal? Because he said, like all animals, there's no purpose. See, when we started today, I asked you to hold up your finger, okay? And I said, look at your finger and look at your fingerprint. You have been created in the image of God, and you are special. Very, very special. There is nobody else in the 8.3 billion people in the world like you. I have a cat at my house. And when I got in my car to go to the airport on Monday, I picked up my cat and I said, "Cat, show me your claw." And the cat held up its claw. It did not do that. It is just a cat. And it's a good cat. It obeys me. And when I feed it, it does well. And I tell it, kill the mice, and it catches mice. But it's not made in the image of God. You are special. You have a purpose. Now, I like animals. I've had many dogs. I've had 2 cats, many dogs. I like dogs more than cats. But God's animals are a gift, but they're not like my kids. My kids have a purpose. My grandboys have a purpose because they have a fingerprint like no other person. And so in our life, you need to answer the question, what is my purpose? All of my students have to write, my purpose in life is, and then they turn it in to me at that point. See, when I was in college, I didn't, yes?
What your students answered on the question?
Excuse me?
What your students answered on the question?
What do the students answer?
Yeah.
There's a number of different things they may say. Let me see if it's on here. I think I've got a slide about that. I don't know if it's on this one or not. I don't think so. There are some people, the most common answer I receive from students is my purpose is to be happy. I want to be happy. And then I write on their paper, what if you have to do something that makes you unhappy? What are they going to do? And because being happy is not part of our purpose. I hope to be happy, but if I only want to be happy, then I will avoid hard things. Some people say my purpose in life is to serve others. And so they think, like your mother may have, or a mother or a father, is my purpose is to help other people. Other people, the students that will be coming in even next 2 weeks from now, I've asked them that question, and many of them say my purpose is to be pleasing to God. And so they have a greater purpose thinking about God. In my lecture on global leadership, I will give a slide. It's not in this one. And in that, I will have a picture of 8 different purposes that people can choose from. And then I will give you the opportunity to think about one of those 8. But other people may have different purposes. But most of my students, the first time I ask that question, they don't have an answer. They don't know because they have never been asked. I have a challenge for you. When you go home tonight, call your mother or father, or text them or email them and ask them. Today I had a lecture at Globiz, and the professor asked, my purpose in life is, so I want to ask you, Mom or Daddy, what is your purpose in life? And see what they say. And they may help you to think about, well, I've never been asked that, because it's very important. So that's a very good, I'm glad you asked that question. And so, if you do not know the answer to that, that's okay. Think. That's why you're in college, to think and to process what your purpose. I did not have a purpose. My purpose in life was money, making lots of money, buying more things, and to be happy. But I was still empty inside. I had money, I had things, I had a car, but inside I was still unfulfilled because my purpose related things on the external. And I had to learn the difference in external motivation and internal motivation in my life. When I was a sophomore in college, I went to a conference, and the man asked, there was 1,000 students, he was speaking to 1,000 people, and I was in the very back row, and he asked, what is your dream for your life? And I wrote on my paper, I just have nightmares. I did not have a dream. And I had to think, why do I not have a purpose? And so that made me question and start to think about that in my life consistently. So my purpose in life is, and how would you answer that? Think about it, okay? That was question number 5 on your piece of paper, okay? There's a book that was written called The Purpose-Driven Life. And he tells us in that book what a purpose does for you. When you and I know our purpose, it does at least 5 things for you. Okay? The first thing knowing your purpose does, it gives you meaning in life. You know why you get up in the morning. Why are you getting up? Well, I've got to go to school. Why are you wanting to go to school? I want to get good grades. Why do you want good grades? So I can graduate. Why do you want to graduate? So I can get a job. Why do you want a job? So I can make money. Why do you want to make money? So I can buy things. Why do you want more things? I don't know. And so it's more than just thinking about things. It's about internal. So it gives you meaning in life. Number 2, knowing your purpose simplifies your life. It tells you what to say yes to, and it tells you what to say no to. See, when you're in college and you're majoring in engineering or in business or in education or whatever your major is, you take classes that help you to graduate. You say yes to this class, and no to this class. And you have a choice that you have to make in life. Number 3, knowing your purpose will give you focus. You know what focus is? It's like a laser beam, and a laser beam, if you point a laser beam is focused light, and it puts it all in one place. And when you know your purpose, it helps you to focus. I want to do this, and not this, and not this, but I want to do this. Number 4, it provides motivation for you in life. It helps you to have enthusiasm and energy. And lastly, knowing your purpose prepares you for eternity. I believe there's more to life than just living on this earth. I believe there's eternity, and knowing our purpose helps us to know those things. Again, it goes back to Ikigai, right here. Not just what you're good at, not just your profession, not just your vocation or your job, not just your passion, but it's holistic. It's it's the meaning of life. And since you are a college student, when I was a sophomore, my second year in college is when I started asking that question. A man said, "What is your purpose?" I said, "I do not know." He said, "Let's think about it." And then I started to learn about what that meant, and personally started to understand it that much more. Ralph Waldo Emerson says this about purpose: the purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful. It is to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and that you have lived well. Mark Twain, again, he said what? The two most important days in your life are the day that you were born, and you have that fingerprint, and the day you find out why, your purpose in life. Blaise Pascal said, there is a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every person, and it can never be filled by any created thing. It can only be filled by God. And I have found that to help me understand my purpose. What is your purpose? And if you had to write that on a piece of paper, what would you write down? My purpose in life is. Yes?
What's your purpose?
What's my purpose? Thank you for asking that. I do know the answer to that. I did not know the other. My purpose in life is to be pleasing and to give glory to God. And so I never want to do anything that is not pleasing to God and give Him glory. The word glory means to magnify. For instance, if you look out tonight and you see the moon, does the moon have any light in it? When you see the moon, does the moon have a light? It doesn't. The moon is just up there. Why does the moon glow at night? Yeah, it reflects the sun. Now you don't see the sun, you're looking at the moon. It's dark where you are, but you see the moon and it's glowing. The reason it is glowing is it is looking at the sun, and the sun, that's why depending on where the earth is, it has a half moon or a shaped moon. That is supposed to be my life, and I believe your life as well. That my life has no reflection, but my relationship with God gives me purpose. And so I want to give Him glory or reflect Him. So when other people see me, they may think, why is that person different? And so it's to be pleasing and to glorify God. That's my big purpose. And then secondarily, it's to love people and to help them. Then below that is to show how do I love and help them? I teach. And how do I do that? I work in the university. And how do I do that? I work at Globiz, and I work at Waseda, or I work at in Western Kentucky University. I was asked a number of years ago to leave the university, this was 15 years ago, to leave the university and to work with seniors, not seniors in college, but old people with gray hair like me. And I was going to make twice as much money as I was in my job. And I said, can I still work with college students? And he said, no, you have to work with old people. And I said, no, I do not want that job. Because part of my secondary purpose down here is people like you. Because you are wonderful. You are the future of your country. You're the future of the next generation. And so rather than working with people that are about to die, I work with college students who their life is just now beginning in life. So thank you for asking that question. But I did not, when I was a student in college, I did not have that answer. I had to learn, and by the time I was a senior, in my fourth year in college is when I wrote that down. And now I have a piece of paper that I wrote for almost 50 years ago that has that written down. And that's helped me. So I want to encourage you, do you know your purpose? Do you know why you are here? So that's purpose. Let me look at the time. We're supposed to end at 11:20?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you
Okay.
finish up, please.
Next thing is values. And your values, I've already discussed values. That's what you believe, how you live, honesty and truthfulness and love and compassion and caring. Then the next thing are your goals. And when I talk about goals, I asked my students to write SMART goals. SMART. A goal is something that you want to accomplish, but your goal, is it SMART, meaning is it specific? Is it measurable? I'll give an example. One of my goals is to stay healthy. I almost did not come here because I had pneumonia last week. And so the doctor had to say, you can travel back to America. And so I tried to exercise. I do push-ups, and I do pull-ups, and I run or I walk, and I try to stay healthy. So every day or every week, I have a measurable goal of how many pull-ups I want to do or how many push-ups I want to do. It's action-oriented, meaning you have to say yes or no. It's realistic, so I do 5,000 push-ups every day. No, that's not realistic. So you can only do so much, and it has to be timely. But lastly, I do goals in 4 areas. I have physical goals, my health physically, that relates to how you eat. It relates to exercise. It relates to how much you sleep. And so I ask my students to have physical goals. I ask them to have academic goals. What kind of grades do they want to make in school? I ask them to have a social goal, like how much time they want to spend with their friends. And then I ask my students to have a spiritual goal. To think, since I believe that we are spiritual beings, not just physical, I ask them, what is your spiritual goal? I had one student in my class said, I do not know God, I want to know about God. I had another student said, I do not have a religion, I want to find what religion I want to understand. And so you have to think. So if you are my students in America, at Kentucky, I would, on your first assignment is you write down my purpose in life is. Your second assignment is what are your goals for the semester? And I'm looking for 4 things. What's your physical goal? What is your academic goal? What is your social goal? And then what is your spiritual goal? And what are your goals for the semester? What I have tried to do today is I have given you a big picture about leadership and personal leadership. We've talked about the impact of leadership, and we talked about your father or your mother or your brother or sister or your teacher. We gave you definitions of leadership. We've talked about relationships of a leader, that there are 3. A leader in self, a leader in their mentor, and a leader in others. And then we've talked about the structure of leadership. What is your purpose? What are your values? What are your goals? And then what is your plan? What I will do is in our next lecture, I will start introducing, and then all of you will be together in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about CQ and what it means to be a global leader, what it means to be able to have an impact in a different culture. But before you can have an impact in a different culture, you need to lead yourself. And can you lead yourself? Questions, then we'll be done for the day. Questions you'd like to ask or clarity? Thank you for your question earlier. I appreciate that. Thank you for your question as well. Anybody have another question you'd like to ask before we end for the day? Anything at all? Now, I do not know if your professor is going to require this, but I want to challenge you to think. Go home tonight and write out, my purpose in life is. And just write something down. Think. Maybe one sentence or maybe one paragraph. And then also think, okay, what are my goals for this year or this semester? And think about those 4 areas of your life. Okay. Labari Sente,
Okay.